Oh, hello. The following is an open letter to the SyFy channel regarding the 4th season of Defiance. We need a 4th season of Defiance. Quite simply, watching a lot of the shows that are on now, I'm enjoying Dark Matter, I'm enjoying Killjoys quite a bit. I know I've heard good things about Dominion. You guys have a lot of great shows, but there's nothing that to this point has come as close to building a real world, a world full of inhabitants, of possibilities where you really don't know what could happen next, and the story could have a million different ways to unfold. Take a show like Killjoys. Every week there's going to be either one of those boxes, or there's going to be another warrant. The warrant is all, and they're going to go and they're going to find out something about themselves, and they're going to complete the warrant and basically hit the reset button. It's a very entertaining show, but with Defiance, it's got that string continuity that I love. Shows like Babylon 5, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, even Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the later seasons did this really well. And every episode builds on itself, it builds the world. And when you look at the fact that the show has really focused on the Tar family, it's focused on Nolan and Arissa, that's wonderful. But if we were to go to season 4, we could absolutely pick up later with Nolan and what happened to him. Assuming that Grant wants to come back for season 4, I don't know why he wouldn't. Take a little bit of a break from the Tars, take a little bit of a break from Arissa. Now Doc Yule is supposedly gone for good. So what does that leave us with? It leaves us with an incredibly rich and vibrant society. It leaves us with the town of Defiance, which, just like Babylon 5, is a place where humans and aliens need to learn to coexist peacefully. And it's a task that is clearly easier said than done. You have so many races you haven't explored yet. The Liberata, the Golani, the Sensoth, even the Biomen. We had the Fab Four in the underground bunker, and that's cool, but what is it like to be a Bioman? What is it like trying to integrate? We can look at their rights, not to mention the rest of the Indigene. They're a manufactured race, so are there any more? We haven't seen too many. Doc Yule's an interesting character, but maybe there's more that we can explore. And how do they, much like the Biomen, break away from that identity of being, a manufactured slave race and form their own society, form their own culture, and move forward. You look at what season 3 did with the Olmec and created this whole species out of nothing, almost retconned their existence. The Olmec were written really well. Even when you look at Kinsey and Tevkin, they were the yin and the yang. They were absolutely two Olmec of completely opposite mindset on how to integrate with humans and with the Earth. Tevkin wanted to live peacefully and assimilate, and Kinsey wanted to eat all of us in the Dread Harvest. You can't get more polar opposite than that, and it was done really well. And I would have liked to see Tevkin continue on as a character, but I understand from a narrative, dramatic perspective, spoiler alert, why he had to die. So you have this town of Defiance, and you also have the Earth as a whole. So let's look at the Volge. They live in these underground caves. What are they doing? We've only seen them once or twice. Razor Rain. Is this a continuing threat? Let's look at how do we move forward as a society, much like we look at how we humans today in present-day Earth have to look at climate change and have to look at our situation and make lifestyle adjustments. What do the denizens of Defiance have to deal with on a day-to-day basis? I felt like the Arcfall and the Arctech, these different things that might fall to Earth, is this an ongoing threat? So my suggestion would be absolutely go for season 4. You have such a gift that's been handed to you in this rich world with so many different cultures that have been fleshed out and so many more that need to be fleshed out. I know that Doc Yule makes the joke about Freddy the Liberata, but really, who are the Liberata? We don't know enough about them. Maybe we have a Liberata main character. Maybe there's some sort of a culture clash between them and the Arathians. One of my favorite parts of the first season was the Arathian biker gangs, and of course you had Sukar, who was one of my favorite characters, and I didn't like specifically how they handled him, but he was amazing, and you really got a feel for what the Arathians were doing on Earth, how they were coming to terms with their new surroundings and with their new situation. So I feel like you have limitless narrative possibilities, you have a vibrant world that people care about, and the groundwork is already laid out for you. So while we all want to know what's next for Daytak and Shtamatar, and for Arissa now that she's back on Earth, let's talk a little bit about the Season 3 finale. My main two questions are, one, why did Nolan have to get on the ship and go? It seemed like Arissa was ready to make this sacrifice. It's something she wanted to do. And Nolan basically hits her with the charge stick and immobilizes her and sends her back to Earth. Is that what... Did he know that she wanted to do that? It seems like it's expressed later that when he was a young boy, he always wanted to go into deep space, so it seems like it's something he selfishly took from her, but that's not the character of Joshua Nolan that we know and the relationship they have. It's obviously he's very paternal towards her. He always has been. You know, she is his adopted daughter, so why did he do that? I didn't quite understand. I feel like at the very least they should go together. The only thing I can think of is that he knows that deep down, as much as she loves him and cares about him, she needs a break from him, and he is the worst part of her, the killer. So maybe that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that he knows secretly that she wants to be free of him. So the only way that he can give her that is to go, a billion miles away. To that point, I wish they had explained a little bit more why this is a one-way trip. Couldn't Doc Yule have used the energy to just go around the solar system a bunch of times in a circle? Did they have to go in one direction? Visually, the scene was amazing when it showed all the circles and the path that Doc Yule took Nolan on. One of the mysteries as well is Doc Yule gone? Can she be brought back? Can her consciousness be downloaded into another indigen body? She's a fantastic character. It would be a shame to have that be the end of her. If we do go to season 4 and pick up the story, and we do go to see what Nolan is doing, it would be a waste to not have Doc Yule there, even at the very least as part of the ship's consciousness. Another just really great scene was the one where Amanda is having sort of that fever dream, and she's hearing the voices of the people being rounded up by the OMAC, and she gets up, goes out with a gun, and says hey, asshole, and she saves the baby, and she saves Shtama, and saves the rest of them by killing the OMAC. That was a great scene. I think Amanda Julie Benz has taken a job on another show, so I was ready for her character to be killed, and there was a few red herrings where we thought that was it, but she lived through the show, and if we pick up in season 4, she's obviously the leader that this town needs. The VC is still out there, the E-Rep is still out there, even though they're shattered. So Defiance has always been a place that neither faction can control, even though they've tried. And a big part of that is Amanda Rosewater. Finally, the redemption of Daytak and Shtama. You have two people who are absolutely unlikable. They're killing innocent people. They're blowing things up. They're acting as terrorists, all under the guise of protecting Alak. But in the end, Daytak's forced sacrifice to save the town from General Ramtak more or less cleared his name. Now, of course, he came back as the as the VC ambassador, more or less, with the real ambassador. And Shtama, who was a pariah to the town as well, is able to work her way back in and clear her name. And Daytak and Shtama once again have some standing in the town at the end. And Daytak is an absolute survivor. And some of the coolest scenes were when he breaks out of his chains and he goes out, and Doc Yule lets him go out to be food for the OMAC, and he says, "Would you like to have a taste of Daytak tar?" And he stabs one of them through the head with the Wolverine claw. One thing about the OMAC, too hard to kill. I think a stab through the head with the Wolverine claw would be more impressive from a dramatic standpoint if it was actually a killing shot. The fact that that guy survived it, it's almost like, what was the point of Daytak's sacrifice other than, his almost sacrifice, other than just to save his own life? But when the prisoners see him and they go, "Daytak got one," and then later when Kinsey is about to eat the baby, I think I like my fiction and my sci-fi with less peril to babies, if you don't mind. It reminds me of a scene in The Walking Dead where they were threatening Judith, and I didn't like that scene at all. It's a little too close to home. I didn't care for it. But Daytak shows up at the absolute 11th hour, just like you knew he would, and says, you're what did he say? You frightened my wife, or something like that. And just a great scene. He's absolutely a badass. He's a survivor, and even if the show takes a little bit of focus away from him, he's too good of a character not to explore further. So just like when that human in the cage never lost faith that Joshua Nolan would come save him, We have not lost faith that the SyFy Network will do the right thing, bring back Defiance for Season 4, and let us enjoy another season in this world and with these characters that we care about. Thank you very much. Leave me a comment with your thoughts, and we will hopefully be talking more Defiance next year.